think it's pretty unheard of to take 20 years off and to come back and to hit it like this. And so if anything, I hope that that allows other artists that have maybe taken a break to know that there's space for you. The fans still want you, and there's space. And if you can find a way to create something that makes money so that you can do this because you love it and then share it with the world, I mean, it's a real gift. Hey, I'm Willa Ford, and this is SoundAdvice.
Willa Ford, we're so excited to have you today on SoundAdvice.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. You have such a fascinating career. It feels like you've lived, like you said, a cat, multiple creative lives.
Yeah.
Had charting successes and also multiple businesses.
Yeah.
When you hear your name, Willa Ford, what do you first think of?
Well, I guess I just think of myself. Is that weird? I mean, from a standpoint of, because again, my design firm is WFord, but my record, is Willa Ford. So yeah, I'm a creative. That's all I see.
Your new album, Amanda, it's obviously very deeply personal. You chose to release it under your birth name.
That's right.
How come?
Yeah, I think when you peel back the layers of who you are when you're born before the world gets a hold of you, is really your most innocent self, right? And so this record was so healing, and I think I was able to really work through a lot of different parts of my life and what has happened and traumas, the good, the bad, the ugly. So I feel like I'm really returning to the point of sort of my birth. So Amanda seems really fitting.
Yeah, you've described this album as almost like reclaiming a lost dream.
Yeah.
What made now the right time to do that?
Now is the right time because it's how the universe, and God would have it. I think I needed to live the life I lived. The timing is always divine. It's always divine. And so for me, this record and the time that it's coming out is no accident. It's supposed to be right now. And I focus on that every day as I'm talking to people and I'm doing the work. And I think as an artist, you think you've reached the pinnacle of your career and you have no idea. You have no idea what the future holds, but if you love it and you want to create, you should stick with it and ride the ride. It's worth it.
You talked a little bit about going through in this writing process, going through past trauma.
Yeah.
What are some things that you learned about yourself?
I am so resilient. There are things that have happened in my life that a lot of people, I think, just wouldn't have ended up where I am today, which is most proud of my relationship with God, with my husband, my children, a healthy, stable, loving relationship. It's everything I could have ever dreamed of. And then I think outside of that, also the resilience to work through it and to come back to something that might have scared me in the beginning and to also share it with people, to let them have an opinion, to let them see this art that I created so closely to my heart. I am really proud of the record, and I'm also proud of myself. Yeah.
What did it feel like coming into the studio after years?
It was a slow roll. First of all, the studio where this entire record was created, minus the orchestra part, obviously, is my guest house at our house.
Oh, no way.
We had a barn and we converted it into what is like a guest house / studio. So the writers and producers come to me and I get to still be a mom and do my life in my own safe space. And then I walk down those stairs to Lagrange, is what we call it, and I get to create music with people I feel safe with and I love. And it became such a happy, joyful place. Even with some of the deep things that we talk about in this record, just that barn is so special. And it's actually in Woodside, California, where a lot of people don't realize, but it has very much a music story in those mountains where I live. So I think that's actually pretty cool too. This house is on acres of land in the country, up the mountain, and it really is a serene, safe space. And so I love to bring the producers and writers into my world because they're always in awe of how beautiful it is there. And then we get to write and create. And I never understood when I was a pop singer, you know, I'd go from city to city and writing with people before the first record. And I never understood why these rock bands would want to rent a cabin or go to Hawaii and try to create a record. I'm like, I would never get anything done. I get it now. I think when you live, eat, sleep, breathe together, and then create in that same space, it has a different feel, the entire record. And that is something that as a young artist, I had no idea would impact my writing, but I would 100% recommend finding a way to bring your real life and your work music life in a way that they almost intertwine. You know, like we would go upstairs and I would make dinner for everybody. We'd have dinner, sit down with my family. We'd pray over the meal. I'd put my kids to bed. I'd go back down the stairs. We'd write a sexy number like Flex. Like, you know, you can be all things at once. And it was just cool to mesh with people like family.
Your dad was also in a rock band, right?
Yeah, my dad was in a rock band. They were called like the Newspaper Boys or something. And he was a hottie. It was, yeah, he was running the farm. My great grandfather was very strict with them and made them run the farm. But him and his brother, they both play guitar. And so, yeah, they had a rock band.
I'm curious, where did your love for music start? And did you either find that again or find different sources of?
So from a very young age, music was pretty much everything to me. So my mom was a classical piano and vocal major, and my dad was in a rock band. And so music was always in the house, all types of music. And they would sing in the car, and I, at a very young age, would sing harmonies with them. So they all have great ears, could sing harmonies. People would call us the Von Trapps. It was like a joke because it's like 3-part harmony in a car. Truly, my love for music came from my parents and hearing that day in and day out. And I think people say like, oh, you're either born with it or not. I mean, I agree with that, but I only sing harmonies in the car with my kids. I'm trying to train their ears from a very young age to be able to have this. I think it's a superpower to have an ear that can compose vocals in a special way.
Take us from your childhood to when you thought that this could be a full-time career.
Okay, well, I knew this was going to be my full-time career. It wasn't like, oh, will I be? It's like, when will I be? And, you know, I was on the farm and we didn't have any connections. You know, my family didn't know anybody special in the industry or anything. So like, I didn't have agents or managers and stuff like that. And I tried out for a performing song and dance group in Tampa. And that changed my life, really changed my life. And I started studying classical vocal as well as this song and dance ensemble on stage, and which has had quite a few recording artists come out of this group in Tampa. And it was like boot camp for pop stars. Like, if you think pop stardom was going to be hard, you should just be in this group because it's just as hard. 5-year-olds lugging their makeup in their bags, you know, their wardrobe to stage and having to do it all yourself. It was a really good lesson. So I did that until I was 16. And then I left that performance group. So from like 8, and then I was in the choir, then 11 in that group till 16, I did that. And then at 16 is when I really started pushing hard to get in studios, try to see if I could get a record deal. I remember at one point somebody was trying to take me overseas to Asia. Like, at that point, I was just like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready for my shot. I just am waiting for it. I was still in high school, so I would do like the drama musicals and stuff and like Crush.
Yeah.
And that was the only part of high school that I enjoyed. I otherwise was like, can I get out of here? And I did. I left my junior year, and then the label ended up signing me when I turned 18. But I just kept looking for opportunities to get on a stage. Like, if there was 2 people and a microphone, I was going to do it. And that's, you know, I just knew. I tell people the story. I was 5 watching MTV, and I saw Cyndi Lauper, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
There's a story of you like singing on the phone
on a SkyTel flip phone.
Yeah.
No, it's a true story. So I had just done a stage show, and somebody had asked about the girl there and whatever. And so I remember I met this person at the front of like Hampton Inn Hotel, sketch after I say it out loud. And they said, hey, can you sing? And so I sang Whitney Houston, One Moment in Time, on somebody on speakerphone, but I didn't know who was on the other end of it. And they said, you should fly her out. It was a little sketchy, but my grandparents gave us the money so that my mom and I could fly to Los Angeles to meet with this person. Ended up meeting with Magic Johnson, who was awesome. Took my mom and I to dinner, sing for me, blah, blah, blah. They kind of put me in a studio to fill me out. I ended up in Jay Boberg, the head of MCA's office. My demos weren't even done. And he said, just sing for me. Sing live. I stood up, I sang. And said, we're going to sign her. So I waited my whole life. And I just worked at my craft. And then when the moment happened, I was ready.
What were those family conversations like? Because that was a young age. You said your grandparents were, you know, supportive. Your mom came with you. Like, what conversations were you having?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't know some of the behind the scene conversations that were happening. And so my mom, my dad, and my older sister had to make a sacrifice of my mom to be with me. They felt like they didn't know enough about this industry, but everything they did know was scary. And they didn't want to send me at 18 off by myself. So my mom, who worked at the farm with my dad, made no money, came on the road with me, and was really traveling with me as I did everything from the age of 18 through, 21. That was a decision that my family made to protect me, which was a beautiful decision. And I do retrospectively think it saved me from a lot of situations that may have not been good. I think the other situation that always worked in my favor is I did drink, and I had some nights where, I had some fun, but I never touched drugs. I hated them. I hated what I saw they did to friends and other people in my life, and I just made a vow that people that were touring with me and on the road with me couldn't have anything on the road, because I knew I'd get blamed, but I think hindsight, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, was to just stay away from the things that could definitely slow me down or sidetrack me from my goals.
What advice would you give to young aspiring artists about to enter the industry, maybe again, like not having experience and being in these rooms with big labels?
That's right. Well, I mean, Ralph Willa Ford knew nobody, and we still, as a family, made it, I think you have to, first thing, do you love it so much that you're willing to sleep on couches? Do you love it enough that you're willing to work a second job so that you're not homeless? Because you don't want to be homeless, but you're always going to run right on that border until you make it. And even once you've made it, you might end up back on that couch. You have to love it. If you love it and you've answered those questions and you move past that, you need to work at it every day. What are you doing today? Are you getting studio time? Are you getting better on a mic every day? Are you in rooms with writers? I don't care if it's the guy that you were checking out groceries with. If he says he's a producer, find a safe place to meet and try. Let's see. If you're not creatively growing, they're going to pass you. There are millions of other people in this world that have talent. The thing that separates you is going to be your work ethic and your want. You're gonna hear stories of people that were like, I went through high school and then suddenly I had a good voice and I was discovered. That's cool. That's awesome for them. But that was not what it was for me. And I'm not willing to take that bet or that chance that I'm just gonna get lucky, because I loved it too much. And so, I busted my butt. I didn't go to homecomings, and I went to one prom. But I didn't go to homecomings and proms. I wasn't on the cheerleading team. I wasn't super involved in a social life. I was on stage. I was in rehearsals 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. I wasn't going on vacations. This was the dream. This was the goal. And I was fortunate enough to have parents that said, we support that. We are here. We don't, whether we have finances or not, we're going to figure out how to help you get there. And I think they both had enough musical background to know I was special at a young age, and that they believed in me. And I think, again, those are the pieces that if you're young and you don't have that heart to sleep on a couch, I want you out. Everybody wants to be an influencer, make it on TikTok and make all this money. That is just not normal life. That is not realistic. The reality is most of my friends are on couches and they're more talented than the people that we're seeing on these things. So you have to want to be there and you have to want to love the craft. That's it.
I mean, outside of your parents, you know, and the people around you seeing that you're special and that you're talent, like even from the way you're talking about it, it's like so much drive.
Just born with drive. It's interesting. I always wonder, you know, one of the things as I've like been in relationships, one of the things that I'm really attracted to is drive. And it's interesting. We're like, oh, you've been with a lot of athletes or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just really attracted to drive. Athletes have this natural, premier athletes have a natural drive. They are going to beat the guy next to them. I don't care if it's my friend. I am going to work harder, faster. We have that in common. I am not an athlete, but if I wasn't a musician, I was born with the mindset of one. And so again, I think the key here is outwork the person next to you if the opportunity is given. A lot of people will be like, you need peace, you need calm, and you need serenity, and let the universe bring you it. No, the universe isn't just gonna show up for you. You gotta work for it. You know, it's said like you get a hand to help you, but it's not a handout.
Yeah, and you really like wanted it and worked for it.
Yeah.
And were so sure from such a young age.
Yeah.
Is there anything now that maybe in your 20s you didn't really fully understand about about the fame, your identity, the industries? Like what's something now that you know?
Yeah, well, interesting enough, like you get to this place where you're like, my whole life, I'm like, okay, if I can get a hit song, if I can be on MTV, you get it, okay? Say you're lucky enough to get there, and all of a sudden you're like, what now? There's a what now moment, no matter how well somebody does, they don't know what to do after they've hit that moment. And so it is gonna strap in, because it's gonna be a ride. You may be lucky enough, you know, to be an iconic situation where you just keep flowing. But I am 98% sure your career is going to go like this. And you just need to continue to work, continue to be kind, and continue to love what you're doing. And really, resilience is the key to this whole music game. You know, you can take a day on the couch, you're living at your friend's house, you can't pay your bills, and it's depressing, but I'm giving you a day to get off that couch, to get back up, and what are you gonna do to make it happen for yourself, you know? And so that has always been how I am. I do need those moments to feel what I'm feeling, but then you gotta get back up.
I want to talk more about your moment that you had like a very big moment with I Want to Be Bad that introduced you to the world in such a bold way.
Yeah.
What did that moment mean to you? I know we've talked about a lot of financial stability. How did that impact you financially?
That moment allowed me to, you know, I think move and make decisions in a different way than I ever had been able to make before. And I was grateful for that moment. Something that a lot of young artists go through is not realizing that like the rain stops and you need to save for that. So I think that piece is important to take into consideration. It is a business, and without a business degree, which is usually the case for most musicians, it's a very difficult world to navigate. You don't go through school and get like a fiduciary responsibility class. Like it doesn't happen. And I heard somebody say one time, it's like, you work so hard as a musician or let's say an athlete, and then you hire these managers or business managers that are supposed to help you say no to spending your money, but really they don't. And so I also think that that is something as a young person that's still hungry, let's get our fiduciary knowledge. We may not have the money yet, but when it comes, we should have a knowledge and a wherewithal of what to do and how to make it last, so that you can keep creating in a space that doesn't feel so constricted. Because when you create from a place of less confines, you make better art.
What would you recommend doing differently to yourself now in terms of like your
Oh, so many things. But at the same time, there's so much that isn't in your control in the business. So I think I would have started working on my mental health sooner. I didn't lose it. I wasn't crazy, but my mental health was suffering. And therefore, I just completely shut down and stopped doing music. And I think hindsight, working through some emotional baggage would have been a really good idea. And you think you're working through it with writing, and you are, but I think it doesn't replace the fact that you need to talk to somebody and really work through things. It's a high stakes game with high rewards. It means you need to be cognitively highly functioning when it happens for you. So that's, again, another piece to me that I didn't know in my 20s and I would have wanted for my 20-year-old self.
Your new music feels very like true to you. Like you listen back to your discography and you're like, okay, I see this, but it also feels like such a beautiful evolution.
Yeah.
How did you balance when it came to writing, honoring who you were versus who you are right now?
It's funny. I think really where I got really lucky, especially with I Want to Be Bad, is that it was a song that almost has a timeless sound, even though it was in that time frame. And it really was easy to sort of parlay to Burn Burn. We knew we needed to find a happy medium. And then I could express myself on other songs, you know, on the record. But I didn't overthink it. I wrote with producers and said, I want to do pop music because my fans need pop music if we're going to put it out. And I'm a pop artist. It means popular. It means fun and good. And not ashamed to be a pop artist. I don't want to be some indie coffee shop, you know. I tried to think that's what I want. It's not what I wanted. So I think just honoring pop music in general and working through sounds and then just watching how this record sort of stacked itself together and then very much being the person in charge, you can take the record and say, I want this song, this song, this song. This is not right for this record. There's great songs that are sitting there that we wrote for this record that weren't part of this record. And then also no mistake in how I curated the record, how you go through it, and the journey that it will take you on from a ballad and to a fast pace. So again, just being able to curate that whole thing is, I think, how you bridge the gap of 20 plus years.
I feel like it's, you know, releasing music after so long, I'm sure that it comes with some pressure. And in that song selection process, like what makes it on to this like reintroduction? What makes it on to Amanda? What factors are you thinking about?
Yeah, I thrive in this. I love this part. I'm actually not scared because what do you have to lose? And that's a really important thing. We talked about that girl on the couch or whatever. So like, what do you have to lose? You know, so people don't like it. Did you create art? Did you love it? Great. I'm really proud of it. It doesn't matter so much. I would love to have fans. I would love to have them loving the record enough that I can keep making beautiful music for them. But I think you've got to not look at it that way. And so when it was like picking Burn Burn or what, they were just so obvious to me in so many ways. And then I think, again, assembling a team around you, if you can, is really important. People that don't just believe in the music, but believe in you as a human. People that will put their money on you as the racehorse to win. And as I went back into that, you know, building a team, I think that's part of it. Who's willing to fight for me, you know, in the room? And who knows me better than people that have known me my whole life and know that I will outwork anybody you put in front of me if given the opportunity. And I'm proud of that. I know when to take vacations. I know when, like, you know, I have kids. I know they need their mom. I'm like momming, but I managed to sort of like stir it all into the pot at the same time. And I love that.
If early 2000s Willa heard Amanda today,
she'd be insanely jealous. There are songs that are written on this record. In the words of my manager himself, where was this record 20 years ago? Wow. That was the reaction I wanted. And it was the reaction that I got from somebody that had known me a long time, who then shared it with other people from who knew me at Atlantic at the time, including Jason Flom, who said, wow, what a record. And he himself was like, you got to drop this independent and crush it. So it feels good that these people that were a part of my journey in the beginning are still part of my journey now. And they do want to see the girl that they knew at 20 succeed. It's great to have those people around you. Yeah.
For artists that feel like they had to step away from their dream, whether it be by choice or circumstance, what advice would you give them to return to it?
Well, in my case, I found something else that was creative that I loved, but I could create a business doing. And therefore, over 13 years of time, I was able to create a business that gave me a very stable income, which then allowed me to turn around when it was time and say, I am going to financially allow myself to go down this path and just see what happens. Without that responsibility on me from that other job, and then the fiduciary side of that and monetizing that, I don't know that Amanda could have been made. Mm-hmm. So don't look at it as a step down if you have to reinvent yourself in some form. Be true to yourself and do something that you're good at, and know that if it's meant to be, then at least with stability, you could come back. I actually Googled, big mistake, by the way, Googling anything, but I Googled how many women over the age of 40 have had a top 10 hit. It's not pretty. It's not good. And then I reminded myself that it's not about trying to come back and have a top 10 hit. That's not the world we live in anymore. That's the old world. It is unheard of. I don't know. I need to figure out how many years Kylie had between Kylie Minogue coming back out. But I think it's pretty unheard of to take 20 years off and to come back and to hit it like this. And so if anything, I hope that allows other artists that have maybe taken a break to know that there's space for you. The fans still want you, and there's space. And if you can find a way to create something that makes money so that you can do this because you love it and then share it with the world, I mean, it's a real gift. It's a real gift. And it doesn't mean I don't work my butt off, because I'm finishing houses and I've got vacuum cleaners and I'm doing all the things and I'm sweaty. And from that standpoint of Cinderella, you don't see this girl, but it's all worth it so that I can create the music that I love now.
If you could redesign any part of the music industry, what would it be as?
It's a very good question. So the music industry that I knew was strictly a business, and in its confines, you may or may not get an opportunity to shine. So many people I knew that were signed at the same time as me were shelved and never saw the light of day. I think we've taken a step in the right direction with being able to release music the way we can now independently. But I still think that there are artists that sign deals that don't own their stuff, and then the label won't put it out, and their heart and soul and all this work they did is never shared with the world. That's that weird black hole that a lot of beautiful artists fall into. For me, if I could find a way to restructure it so that they could, hey, record label, you don't want me anymore. You're going to shelf it. I know you paid for it, but it's just sitting there. If I could find a way for those people to get it back, that's the part I would want to restructure, because there's so much good stuff out there that you guys will never hear. You'll never hear. Even like a lot of my second record, you won't hear it because we don't own it. So that black hole of artists that I was scared at one point that was going to be me, I wish we could hear them.
That's such a good one. I actually haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, there's so many good artists.
So often, but no one's brought that up.
You don't own it. You can't share it. You can't do anything with it. And so it's just sitting there. They've already wrote you off as a loss for taxes. Why don't they just give you the music, But no, that's the game. That's the game.